You are live. Let's see. I got a new computer, so everything is different. Okay.
Oh, good for new computers.
Well, my old one died out. I guess they changed something, updated, and it wouldn't even let us in. So I didn't have a choice and I lost everything.
What?
Yep.
Purging.
That's
Purging.
crazy. Yeah, I was like, well, maybe that's a sign of
Purging.
what I need to get rid of.
It's been a
Okay.
theme.
Yes. Theme for the times we're in. So, welcome back, everybody. I am Terri-Ann, and this is another episode of Third Thursdays with Keegan. Hi, Keegan.
I, nice to be back.
Oh, it's
Can't
nice
believe
to see you. I love your energy. I love getting together with you and cracking down and joining in and sharing our wisdom with the world.
yes, yes.
Today, we are talking about dissociation. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Dissociation. The
Our
way we
favorite
leave our
thing as humans.
yeah, the way we leave ourselves. How often is it more about us, right? Um, I'm talking today because I think Keegan and I discussed it last time we were on, but this is a topic that many people go through, and there's really, I don't feel like, enough attention brought to it. Disassociation is something that you really don't have like a language for, if you will. It sometimes just happens out of nowhere, and you think you're just maybe like tuning out or just ignoring. So, today we're going to talk about dissociation and the sacred art of calling our fragmented pieces back home.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
yes, I love that. Because they go
Yeah.
hand in hand. Every time
Yeah.
you disassociate, you like send a little piece of yourself out into the abyss. Truly.
Yeah. And it looks like different things for different people, but healing isn't always about adding more, is what I say, right? Often healing is about reclaiming and bringing
Yep.
that stuff back to us, because often on this journey of being human, we've forgotten a lot.
Yes. And, it's a mission sometimes when we're reclaiming ourselves about reorganization, like using what we already have and reorganizing it to make it work. And I think a lot of us forget about that. Like we're not lacking anything. We have all of this life experience, we have all of this knowledge within us, we have all of the definitely do not wants, but we just don't apply them. And I think those are the parts that we really disassociate. And there's so many layers to disassociation. It can be trauma based, it could be mundane, it could be avoidance. It can be so many different things. So I don't necessarily think that we need more. Sometimes we need to reorganize what we already have.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to talk a little bit about what disassociation, tagging on into what you were just saying, but it's not just zoning out, right? Often it's our nervous system, and it's sort of our nervous system's way of protecting us. And it's like, hey, just like I can almost, I haven't really done it in a long time, but when I describe it, it's hard to put into physical words. So you tell me what it feels like for you. But for me, often when I'm going to disassociate, I feel it coming on, and I'm sort of just then like, I'm like, why are you doing this? Like talking to myself in my head, why are you doing this? There's no reason to really do this. You're perfectly safe where you are. But here I am, and I start disassociating from any situation that brings me this sort of discomfort when it comes to this one certain thing. What do you think about that?
Yes, I actually just did it the other day again. It is a constant struggle in my life because you have the mundane of everyday life, and sometimes like we have things that we want. I'll give you the example. I have a lot of things on my plate and a lot of plans, and I disassociated myself for the want of those things so that I could accomplish the hats that I wear, let's just say. So I have work. For example, we all have to work. So I
Mm-hmm.
have work, and it's like I disassociated my feelings of wanting to do something or wanting to have a conversation or wanting to get deeper into a conversation because I didn't have the time for it. And so I shut myself off and shut myself down from feeling because I had to move through something. I had to get work done for the day. And when I came back to that feeling of wanting to create or address a situation and recreate in a situation, I didn't have the emotion, will, or energy to do it. And it made me go into like a journal prompt of like, that small disassociation cost me the ability to feel. And then in that, I created a story so that I could get that feeling back to move or to be motivated to do it. And it had me like thinking a lot about how like dangerous this is and how this can be applied to so many different things, you know, and how these layer up and then we are avoiding and we're not feeling anything because we've disassociated.
I love how you added that, worked on it, and it was a story. And often the story that we tell ourselves is so far off from what you were doing. I love that you did that because the story in our head, right? I just read this the other day. It's so funny we're doing this show today, but I just read this the other day. How often our brain lies to us.
Yes. Yes. And how we will create stories, especially if you're a reflective person or a deep person, you're going to create 50 million different scenarios of what could or why did it and all of this. And most of the times, none of them are applicable, I guess, to the situation at hand. They're like so far fetched and not anything you would really do or say. And it's not good.
It's crazy, isn't it? I think
It is.
Often, it's this disconnection. And I know that our brain is so powerful. And again, what I was just reading the other day goes into a lot about the brain, but how our ancestors needed these things to sort of protect them. And we do too also need this sometimes to protect us. If you're in a high stress situation, if you've had a death in the family, often we disassociate to sort of protect ourselves in that area. But you feel numb. Like I said, I feel it coming on. I know that I'm going to do it. Sometimes it's sort of, as you said, working through it. You don't have the time to do that right now, but I'm going to come back to it. I swear I'm going to come back to it. And this is something I think as a frequency holder, because you and I are frequency holders. And often in that space, we forget to hold the frequency for ourselves. And that's a lot of where we abandon ourselves continually. It's a process. Keegan and I have talked about this. It's an ongoing process, right?
It is. It is. And it's something that you have to constantly be aware of. Like how you said, sometimes you feel it coming on and other times you choose it. And what I've been telling myself as like a little poke at myself is, you're not only disassociating or you're not only avoiding, but you're gaslighting yourself because it needs to be done, or it needs to be said, or it needs to be addressed, or that it needs to be felt. And I anyway, will convince myself of 50 million reasons why I can't do that right now. And then a war creates inside, and then the rest of everything I'm doing is stuck in the frequency of what I gaslit myself in or what I disassociated from. And then I'm not living in my authenticity in other parts of my life.
Yeah. And when we look at that underlying feeling of that again, it always goes back to this abandonment. Mm-hmm. And we're abandoning ourselves. And I think in the world we live in, right, it requires, you said it, we work, we have families, we have children, aging parents. So we're all in this space of continually distraction.
Yes, yes.
Taking ourselves away from ourselves. And the more that we can learn to be with ourselves, and for a lot of people, that can be very uncomfortable.
It is, especially if you don't have a good inner dialogue with yourself.
Imagine the thoughts that run through somebody's head. Again, this thing I'm reading the other day, I was like, it amazed me. And I knew it years ago when I took psychology class. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are negative.
Yes.
And most of them are negative about ourselves. So like, for example, like Terri-Ann, you didn't do that right. Terri-Ann, you're tired all the time. You could have did this better. You're such a horrible mom, and these friggin' patterns run through there. Yeah. And you're like, why are you saying this? And, I'm in a space now where I know when it's coming and then I can catch it. But it's like, how do I get that finally to dissipate and get it to reassemble? And the only thing that I've found, and you can share in a moment, but the only thing I found that really works for me well is disconnecting from outside. That's the disconnection. That's the disconnection. I can't stress that enough. That's the disconnection from me. I need to be disconnected from the outside, not from the inside. What do you think about that?
It's actually a phrase I say. I say sometimes we need to disconnect to reconnect. And
I love that.
You have to like repeat that to yourself, disconnect to reconnect a million times. And it's a process. Like you just said, you are aware of it now because you've practiced it. And so many people, I just had this great analogy the other day because I was talking about how we completely skip over the process of something. So it doesn't become embedded in our nature. It becomes a goal instead of like a resonance. You know what I mean? And I was given this vision of being back in black and white photography class. And we had to take pictures of and develop our own film, and we used 35 millimeter cameras, so like old school clunky cameras.
I remember back in the day.
Yes. And how we're so far away from studying and understanding process, because everything is a distraction and everything is so at your fingertips without the knowledge of the process, without the want of the process too. So I was thinking about how we had to go into these dark closets before we even started taking pictures and developing. We had to go into these super dark closets that had not one stitch of light. And you had to memorize all the parts of your camera, how to take your camera apart in the dark to get the film out of it, how to crack open the film to pull the reel of film out of your, and put it into the developer, close the developer, and put your camera back together before you walked out of this dark room, or you would completely ruin all of the exposure for your films of the pictures you take. And I remember some of us could go in that closet and in one day memorize the whole entire process and move on to developing film. And other people had to spend weeks in that closet trying to get this process down in the dark before they could go develop the film. And the work that went into it made your photography so much better too, because you couldn't just take a picture with your cell phone, look at the picture and say, yeah, I like that, or I don't like it, or I can apply a filter if it's not perfect, or I can take this out if I don't like it. You had to like really study your subject. You had to really see the light, see all these things, take a picture, then go through all of this development. But then in the end process, you just have a picture that people can look at. And that picture might be breathtaking, but you have no idea how many mistakes and how much process in the dark had to happen before that picture could come to light. And if we like took our lives and the things that we did in our lives and applied that to it, it would be a lot more embedded in us. So it wouldn't be constantly seeking outside to understand or to connect. It would be that process embedded in you. It would be so enmeshed in you that it would be a recall. It wouldn't be, a stress.
That is so profound. I just have to tell you, it's so beautiful and so profound. I remember being in photography class back in the day in those dark rooms, and I was one of the ones that struggled. It was a difficult process to learn and go through. And the analogy that you have about putting it together with our life and what we would portray on the outside. I just saw something the other day too. I was watching this guy, and he said that there's 7 people inside of me connecting with 7 people inside of you. And so there's 14 people with us here right now. And these different people portray different things. And it's who I am, who I think I am, who I want to be.
Who I was.
Right. Who I was, who I portray into the world right now.
Yeah.
Holy, so that's 5. I don't know the other 2. I don't remember.
But it was probably who you're going to be.
Right? And so we look at ourselves, right? Because we come on here, we do this show, right? Everything we're portraying is like, yeah, we've done it, we've been there. But I always say, and I add that as the caveat, is I've been there, I'm still in it. Don't look at us and think, oh, they have it all together, because our shit is still really reeling and unraveling for us. We may be at a different point, but we're all just on that same pathway as we're going along, and we're trying to understand who we are at a better place. And when we start to understand that, number one, stop abandoning yourself. I can't
Yeah.
stress this enough. Every single fucking time, stop abandoning yourself. I'm
Yes.
one to also say that to myself. I can be in the middle of something and be like, stop abandoning your fucking self right now. This shit,
Yep.
there's no
You're
more time
lying.
for it.
Yeah, you're lying right now.
You're lying to yourself, girl. So just get that
You
shit
are
right out
lying
of
to
here right
yourself
now.
right now. I just did it the other day. I'm telling you, I had this situation. My husband said something and offended me. I bit my tongue and turned my cheek, and I sat on it all day, like freaking sat on it all day. And what I did was I had to go into the dark parts of myself, like, hey, you could have addressed that immediately. What are you afraid of? What would have been an outcome if you did snap back? What, you know what I mean? Like, you have to go into the darkness of yourself to understand the process, or you're going to sit in the darkness with yourself. And I had to tell myself, like, no, we're not doing this today. We're not going to create some story of why you need to be pissed off all day because you didn't address the stupid thing in the moment.
Yeah.
And I had
And
to, like,
so in
not
those
scold myself,
moments,
say
yeah,
it. Like, you abandoned how you felt, Keeg. You did it. You abandoned how you felt. You didn't acknowledge it to him. So how can you expect him to know, address it, and fix the problem? And then you're stuck with it.
yeah. And then you're like, well, you do this every time. Why do you do this every time? Why don't you just do what you're supposed to do? And that's where that negative self-talk continually comes in. And so I think, number one, stop abandoning yourself. Number two, I say this all the time too. You're probably tired of hearing me saying it. Meditation and mindfulness are one of the most powerful tools that we have as humans have access to. It changes everything, not only in our field, in our thinking, it changes the epigenetics within our genes.
Yep. It rewires our brain. It
It
rewires our heart.
rewires. It rewires all of those systems within you that keep you stuck in those spaces.
Exactly. And if you don't have time to sit and physically meditate, if you're somebody that has to be doing something, write. And you don't have to write about anything. Just start with how you're feeling in that moment. Have an inner dialogue with yourself back and forth. I have so many notebooks that are such scribble, and you can tell when I'm angry. It's like, meh. You can tell when,
Like when you're texting too, right? It's like,
yes, you could tell when you're in a mood and stuff. And most of the time, this inner dialogue comes out that is so unique and original, and the softness does come out after you get the initial feeling out. And it's the same thing that meditation can do for you. But I know some people, it's very hard to sit and give yourself time to do that. So if you have 10 minutes and you don't want to sit and meditate, sit and write to yourself. Write about how you're pissed off at yourself that day or pissed off about something. And 9 times out of 10, when you go reread that, you treat yourself like a child. You're like, wow, that was kind of mean. Why did I say that about myself? Or like, why did I make up that story? Or why did I feel that way? That's kind of ridiculous. Or that's kind of profound. And I still feel that way. I need to bring this out on the outside and create a new space from it, because that's the thing too. You can't just keep it all in. You have to take those things and create on the outside. You have to take those emotions.
yeah.
What do
And
you
I
think
think
about
that's a great third point is, really, if you have trouble meditating, but it's about the mindfulness part too, like writing it down, I think is crucial, because then it's actually factual stuff in front of you. Oh, I didn't just make that up in my head. I actually wrote this down. So I must actually believe this, or I must be telling myself this. And I think that's where you create sort of this unity rather than this unconscious inner war, right? We all have
Yes,
these things and patterns, beliefs, thoughts, behaviors that keep us in this loop of going. And it's easy to just keep going into that loop. And it's sort of like a war within yourself. But when you said, like, we stop abandoning ourselves, look at what it is, be mindful, write it down, meditate, You're creating that inner unity to understand, why is it that you're doing it?
Yep.
Why is it? It comes back to really being disassociated with ourselves, because we do. I
Yep.
remember the days, I had 3 little boys under 3 years old, and I remember the days of running constantly for 18 years. Run, run, run. And I lived in that world. Like, it looks like a totally different world to me now, but I still know there's people that are like that constantly. And today we didn't have social media, and we didn't have cell phones. So we didn't have all those distractions that you had then. It was more like TV or sports or, work and stuff like that. But I think today there's so much more that people are inundated with.
And I think that we give each other nowadays, we give each other the okay to feel the bad things. So, like, when you talk about struggling as a mom to 3 little boys under 3 and the disassociation that was happening, you were avoiding feeling something that you were conflicted in feeling. You were probably like, I fucking hate my life. I hate my husband. I love these children because I birthed them, but I hate the mom I am. I hate the situation I'm in, the environment I'm in. I hate all these things. And who can you really talk to about that without someone judging you? Who can you really talk
to? For me, it was a lot of, I did everything myself. My husband worked. I worked part-time, but my husband worked. So he was really responsible. We've talked about this before too. Really responsible for working and care outside the house.
Yes.
And me, I was responsible
to do the
for everything else. But, he did coach sports when they got older and stuff, and that was great. But, again, it goes back for me, that abandonment, right? I didn't know how to delegate at that time. I didn't know how to say no at that time. I was a massive, massive people pleaser. I did everything and anything anybody asked me to do. And so I had that lack of love for myself that I always gave to others, but I never gave it to myself.
Yes. I can understand that completely.
Yeah. You and I are very similar when it comes to a lot of the disassociation traps that we fell into, and that we still sometimes can fall into. You want to talk a little bit about how we can bring those fragments home back to us?
Sure. So some ways that I do that is, like, when I do have a thought and I get negative, like, sometimes I'll say, man, I remember when I used to, I'll just use an example. I remember when I used to wear dresses all the time and they made me feel good. Like, this is just really simple and generic. And you then ask yourself, like, why don't you do that anymore? And then it's like, why can't I go right now and pick out a really nice dress at the store and add it to my wardrobe and wear it today, or plan to wear that dress tomorrow? Because something inside of me changed at some point to say, this wasn't, my style, or this wasn't what I liked, or this wasn't safe, or whatever it was. I'll get real personal with you. A few years ago, I was at an Aldi, and this man was following me around the store, and I always wore dresses, like, love dresses. I love the flowiness of it, especially in the summertime. I like the air circulating, okay? I don't like to be not breathing.
That's, I think, when I met you.
Yes. I like everything breathing. And this man violated me. He took pictures of my dress unbeknownst to me at the Aldi. And I felt it in my body that he was doing something weird. And because of the place I was in, he was a Black man. I was a white woman. We were in Newport News, Virginia. I felt like I couldn't accuse him of something because of the times we were in, Black and white being pinned against each other in politics and things like this. I'm getting very personal. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to yell at this man to get away from me or anything like that. He could be completely innocent and it's going to be blown out of proportion. Long story short, I'm going around the store. He does it like 3 or 4 times. And then he leaves his cart of all of his belongings and goes outside of the Aldi. And in the parking lot, I could see him and he was flipping through his phone. So I immediately went to the cash register man, the manager there, and I was like, "Sir, I think that man was taking pictures of me. Can I look at the cameras or something?" And he was like, "I feel like he was doing that too. We saw him like around you." And immediately we go look at the cameras. He in fact was. The police
Wow.
had to get involved. The police had to get involved in everything. And I was so shame ridden that I stopped wearing dresses for an entire year. Because what also added to that shame was when the police came to my door for the investigation about a week later, they said, "We found the man. He's done it before. He is going to go face his peers or whatever. We have some things on him." And they basically told me, if you want to personally press charges against him, you know, you run the risk of your body being exposed to a bunch of strangers in a courtroom and, you know, having to tell your story and these pictures being shown. And, you know, it's more incriminating for the victim basically than to just let the judicial system handle it. And I was so weak in that moment that I agreed to not personally press charges.
Mm.
And I disassociated myself in that time.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, for like a year, I was afraid to wear dresses. I felt like I was unsafe to be free in my expression of clothing, which is so bizarre. But I then that following summer went on a mission to make myself reclaim that part of me because he had no right to do that. He had no right at all to violate me in that way. And he did not deserve the control to change what I love and what I love about myself and what is comfortable for me. And it sounds so silly as a dress, but it's not. It made me afraid to dress how I want to go out in public, to look how I like to look out in public. And it took about, 6 to 7 months to rewire my brain that it was safe again to wear a dress.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And the process is hard. And still to this day, I feel like it's so silly. Like, how could you let that change you wearing a dress? But it did, because
Right.
I
It wasn't even
disassociated
just it wasn't
so
even
many
just him
times.
in the act that he was committing. It was the police officers as well, talking you out of it. Like, you're gonna
Yes.
have to go through all this stuff and it's gonna bring up everything for you and it's gonna be scary. And yeah, so I think we abandon ourselves in that moment. But yeah, I love that you shared that. Thank you for sharing so openly with our listeners today. And I want to say that what you said, there was a couple of key points. How long it took you, right? It took you a
Yeah.
while to get back to that space where you felt safe enough. And I think often because that safety comes and it's taking away, for me, I like to call back parts of me physically. Like I call these parts back to me cleansed, healed, and updated, and I call them back and call them back. And that's one of the processes that I use while I'm doing stuff like that. But safety is a whole other part of that, and it's learning how to be safe again.
Yes.
There's so much, and it's so multifaceted when it comes to all the stuff that we're talking about. I think often people look for I don't want to say a quick because it's not quick, but like a quick fix. I just want this fix now. And I find that in the work that we do on ourselves, it's not like that. It's multi-layered, multifaceted. And so I'm sure later on, you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but later on too, stuff came up for you.
Yeah, because I didn't express my anger in that moment. I abandoned my intuition, number one, and I disassociated myself from what I was really feeling, and I made myself a victim. And I had to reclaim that because I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim in anything. People are weird, people do weird things, but I'm not a victim. I have knowledge and I'm allowed to express myself. And I had to rewire that in me again so that I don't have, like, I felt like a little girl in that moment. Like I had to be a good girl and not make waves and stuff like that. And so I really had to look at that in myself and reclaim that energy. Like,
Yeah.
hell no. I'm a woman. I'm fierce. I'm allowed to defend myself. I'm allowed to have intuition, and I'm allowed to claim those parts of myself. And I'm allowed to be angry about it. That was the biggest thing. And then once I allowed myself to be angry about it, and I wasn't mad at him. Like I said, people are weird. They're going to do what they want. I was mad at myself because I could have stopped it immediately.
Calling
I
him
could have
on
just,
it, like, what the hell are you doing?
what the fuck are you doing, guy? Get the hell away from me.
Yeah.
I could have stopped it right there. But I also know that this is a lesson that I was being taught because of abandonment, because there's other layers and parts of my life where I did the same thing. And so I brought all of those moments from my life and put it into that situation. And I was like, no more. I'm gonna be a bitch next time. You get too close to me, I'm gonna tell you, get the F away.
Yeah.
If I think you're being a creep, I'm gonna tell you, get the F away. And I've done it. And it feels good. And 9 times out of 10, it's a creep.
Yes.
And they start right away.
Those feelings are so valid within us and they're so strong. And that's where our intuition kicks in often. But our brain sort of comes up with all these scenarios about why you're wrong in that instance. I think, going back to every show that we've done, we've talked about intuition and really kicking up the feelings of intuition within us and really paying attention to them, because sometimes they are the ones that actually save your life.
And you know what happened in this moment too? Now, every time I put on a dress, I feel fucking powerful. I walk out of that house and I feel gorgeous. I feel like a goddess. I feel like I'm magnetic. It changed so much symbolism of the dress.
Yeah, it changed everything for you. And so that was part of the lesson as well.
Yeah, and that reclaiming gave me something. It wasn't giving me back my self-respect. It wasn't giving me back, my anger. It was creating a new out of something that I chose to destroy, or I chose to put away, or I chose to, avoid in myself or abandon in myself. And when I reclaimed that, it became a symbol of power.
I love that. That is powerful in and of itself, getting to that point from such a stressful and harming situation and getting to the point where you actually then feel powerful in yourself. And I think often we let people take that away from us. Often we are stuck in those memories of what that was or what we could have did differently, and we can't shift out of that. I love how you shared that aspect of that being powerful. I just love it. I love everything about your story today. I have to break off because I'm due for another appointment.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I love it. It was powerful and it needed to be shared today. So I love that you're so openly sharing with our listeners today. I just want to go back to saying, until you really get into your work, whether you're avoiding it or disassociating, the noise is going to get louder. Your signs are going to get stronger, and they are going to be on you to look at those pieces of yourself where you've abandoned yourself. And, Keegan's story today is just one of many, many that us as women, we share. I'm getting chills. Ugh. And I feel that it's so important that as women, we join together. It's not about black or white. It's not about man or woman. It's about somebody violated my space and I didn't save myself. I abandoned myself in that moment. So I want you to all think about that today, where we are abandoning ourselves and how can you really get back to that point where you're stepping into your power, where you're saying to yourself, nice thoughts. And yes, maybe you didn't do it right the first time. Maybe you didn't right the second time or the third time. But as long as you are aware of it and you understand that every time something comes up for you to look at, that you are being called to change something within you, then that's all that you need to do is try.
And not like I talked about the camera. Do not be afraid to go into the dark parts of yourself that you are avoiding, because that's where the process is. That's where the embodiment of the process is. You have to go into that abandonment and you have to look at it, and you have to see where you can clean just a little bit out of a time, like a rope, and just pull it in and pull it in and pull it in until the rope runs out and you're left with self.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you're not broken, you are becoming. Just remember that everything we're doing on this journey of being human is becoming a better human. You know, working through all the pain and suffering that not only we've endured, but our ancestors have endured as well. And so we are the cycle breakers, and we are here to tell you that you're not alone on your journey. Stay tuned next time for Keegan and I. We'll be back in November, a third Thursday, and we'll announce it. But until then, I hope you all have a powerful and beautiful week.
Agreed.
Oops.